So Special U.S. Envoy Adam Boehler gave a round of interviews this evening to Israeli media saying they're doing direct talks between United States and Hamas. Some people are a little bit uneasy about that, but most Israelis are glad. Hey, United States, talk to Hamas. Get them to disarm. And Hamas said they would voluntarily and completely disarm, including an international coalition, ensuring that no military infrastructure remains in Gaza. So they're going to totally remove all that. Hamas would agree to supervision to ensure that they could not harm Israel ever again, and that they would release all the hostages. They would voluntarily renounce any part of political leadership, and a 5 to 10 year truce would take place between Israel and Hamas. United States and other countries would together rebuild Gaza. But, this is a very important but, they will not agree to put their weapons down. What do you think about that? It just seems so interesting that they'll do all that stuff. They said, we'll remove our infrastructure. Does that mean they'll remove all the tunnels? They're going to agree to supervision. Does that mean they'll really agree to an international coalition, making sure that no more tunnels would exist? Very interesting. Very, very interesting. What do they mean they won't put their weapons down, though? That's the part that gets me. It irks me. And I know they're not to be trusted, so how do you trust them? That's my big question to you. What do you think? Look what's going on in Syria. Now, Syria, the Julani and his forces there doing the massacre on the Alawites is not necessarily a proxy of Iran. But you see the same ideology. You see that they're doing this massacring. I'm having deja vu to the massacre Hamas did to us. It's who they are as jihadists. They do jihad. And even on their own people. Now, I know there's no protests in London. There's no protests in the Trafalgar Square. There's no protests downtown New York. There's no protests all over the world like there were when Israel began to defend itself against these massacring jihadists. And I wonder why that is. It just seems a little bit like a double standard. I really don't understand it, and I need some explanation. Someone please tell me, why are there no protests when so many people are getting massacred by these jihadists? By Julani and his forces are massacring these Christians, Alawites, and all kinds, Druze. And look at the chaos. There's clashes in Latakia. Assyrian camps were attacked in Akabiya town. And really, these jihadists under Julani massacred 745 civilians, 125 members of the Syrian security forces, 148 fighters loyal to Assad. And it's just, where is the UN outrage? Where are the sanctions against Syria? The protests. Now, I know Russia and United States suddenly requested an emergency council meeting where the U.S. is begging, come on, please have a meeting tomorrow. It's supposed to be scheduled for today, sorry. And did it happen? I don't know, but it better happen. So what's happening? We're dealing with Hamas the only way we can, and that's increasing pressure, continuing to increase pressure on them. Our Minister of Energy, Eli Cohen, says, yeah, we're going to cut off. Enough talk, it's time for action. Cut off we put in, since January 19th, 25,000 aid trucks. That's, 500,000 tents, 2,100 fuel tankers. So they have stockpiles more than anywhere on the planet Earth. And so Israel says, stop supplying more of that. Say, you must agree to lay down your weapons. There's no shortage of essential products there, and they must lay down their weapons. The E3, France, Germany, and UK, called on Israel to continue to allow humanitarian aid in. But we're saying they're stealing that humanitarian aid and selling it and making, $500 million off of stolen aid from their own people. They're robbing their own people. And do you see that, friends, in France, in Germany, in the UK, when you say continue to let aid go in there? Should we not push the pressure all the way, maximum pressure, right? And President Joe Biden, the former president of the United States, he says that if humanitarian aid is stolen by Hamas, that international aid should stop because it's just going directly to Hamas. And that's what Biden said. So we have a far more right-wing coalition that is of countries that say we should, like Steve Witkoff, he says, let's move forward, do everything you can to make the negotiations go the way they should. And But look what's happening with NATO. Look what's happening with our allies. Right now, Turkey in NATO decides to ban Israel from the NATO drills. They're doing their best to make sure Israel will not be part of NATO. So there's pressures. There's a lot of pressures on all sides. And I really wonder what's going to happen with the talks in Doha. Israel's agreed to resume these talks in Doha, Qatar, and to make sure that Hamas will be willing to either disarm or leave. You leave or you disarm and surrender. You surrender or leave. That's it. And Trump says leave is the only option. They'll never disarm, is what Trump says. So let's see if Trump is wrong or right here. The ceasefire is supposed to be extended until end of March. It's also the end of Ramadan at the end of March. And that essentially, I understood Hamas wanted to accept this proposal and release more hostages, but they're flip-flopping. They're not able to give a straight answer, and that's very frustrating.
Not cool.
For everybody here. Very, very frustrating. One thing that our new defense minister said is he says, we want to befriend Druze everywhere. The Druze community. Sounds like Jews. I'm saying Druze. And the Circassian communities. They've been, Druze have been loyal to Israel. They've contributed to Israel's security. We want to let them, even if they're over on the Syrian side, to jump in and be part of Israel. Psalms chapter 112 says Israel will never be shaken. The righteous will never be shaken. They will be remembered forever. Have no fear of bad news. Let your heart be steadfast. Trust in the Lord. Your hearts are secure. Don't have any fear. In the end, we will look in triumph over our enemies.